Juma Karim brothers. Assalamu alaikum. If you can hear me, just give me a minute. Let me share the video. Thank you very much. Now we start the program. I believe that I'm heard loud and clear. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. It's good afternoon. Suleiman Swai coming back on Facebook Live on the Gambia Way Forward program. Today is the 4th of June 2021, and the time is just gone about 11 minutes to 3 in the afternoon in Birmingham, England. Unfortunately, I'll keep on conducting this discussion in English for benefit of the wider viewers. If I stick it in Wolof, and I will alienate a quite number of followers, and any other language I will do so. I think it's always practical to put it in an official language because the people I engage in would be a language that they all will understand, and the message can be shared among us. And the program today, I might be talking a bit about myself, but does not. What that means is we all talk about ourselves and see ourselves in the discussion. What I mean about this is because I'm going to talk about our responsibility as citizens, and I'm going to talk about us working for the common good, trying to look at the national interest, regardless of where we belong, regardless of the other identities that we are proud of that we have. But what we all share is being Gambians, or having the love for Gambia for people who are not Gambian citizens, and having for love for humanity. This is a value that we all share, and that's why we should look at this program as what it is. And what I'm trying to say, the reason I am here today, or the reason I am on the platform, is because of trying to contribute in creating that common good and in the most effective way I can. As we are not excellent as human beings, what we try to improve ourselves. But the most important thing is our intentions are clear, that we are working and we are working to create that common good, and we learn from our mistakes, and we engage our compatriots in order to add the value, because we might, as good as we are, as knowledgeable or as whatever capacity we have, we cannot effectively do anything without collaborating, working as a team. And the most important part of all this is the peace and tranquility of our country, the environment we operate in. And if we talk about the peace and tranquility of a country, we are talking about the peace and tranquility of the minds. It's not the absence of war we are talking about here. It's the stability of the citizens, of their mind, and project this and look at the future, understand the realities now, to able to understand these realities, analyze these realities, and look into history, our own history, look for other people's history, to learn a lesson and find a solution, find solutions to move on. That's why the program, the title of the program is Finding a Solution. Preventative, with the realities we have, finding a solution. I mean, short term, medium term, and obviously we plan for the long term. If we can find the solutions to the short term, to the medium term, we can never find the solution for the long term. We have to be able to manage what we have now in order to guarantee the peace and stability of that country, in order to give us the sanity and bring us together and bring all the minds in order to work for the long term, plan to work for the long term. And in that title, I talk about the realities, preventative. I've talked about and complete destabilisation, and the other bit I talk about sitting on ply of taking time bombs. Let me just get that very clear for the audience, to capture this at the beginning so that it will stick in our memories, because these points there are the most important thing that we talk about. The other things are details, because once we are conscious of those points, every Gambian can go and work it out for themselves. It's not rocket science. One, the realities we all know of the realities right now. The Gambian in the Gambia or the Gambian in the diaspora, as I said, there's no difference between us, because we in the diaspora are living the realities of the Gambia. I know people would see it differently, but who we got diaspora don't know when there's a hunger in the country, when there's absence of peace, when the people are suffering for the lack of good education, healthcare, naming ceremony, weddings, anything. There's nothing that goes into in that country where we are not actively present. The amount of remittance, amount of money that goes into the country from the diaspora, I don't have the figures, but for a common sense estimate will tell you that over 60% of that are going for welfare needs of our people, probably, or even larger than that. But what I'm trying to express here is the greater chunk of what we send is not going for our personal savings. It's not going for our personal development in the form of assets, acquiring assets or not. The chunk is going to support our people, our friends and family in that country, to sustain that society. Then we are living that reality. And then we all know about this reality. And what that reality is, that's what I meant to say complete destabilization. The word complete, I could just say destabilization. And when I was writing it down, the thought of the to add complete come to it. Even though, as you know, few characters allow for that mode of communication to work. I have to add the word complete. Why did I emphasize on the word complete? We are already destabilized. We've been destabilized for over 22 years. We've been destabilized for, over almost three decades, over almost 30 years. Because destabilization, as I said, is not the conflict we have, or this is a situation we live in. It's when we have, the evidence of this, when we have our young, the youth, taking the risk because of lack of hope to the journey of the Atlantic. And these are not just few. Yes, the migration, immigration is a natural phenomenon. But when it happens in the scale that it happened in the Gambia, it only happens where there's war or where there's destabilization. Destabilization because of all other realities we talk about. That's an indication. Another indication is the revelations we all had in the terrorism. We all know that we have never had that sense of peace and tranquility in ourselves. We live in a society where everybody is suspicious of each other. I'm not even talking about different groups. I'm talking within our own families. And this have, good hold onto us. The relationships have been broken. Trust have been, when trust is broken, you just know that there's no relationship. And nationally, that's what happened. The society become completely polarized. That's where we start. You see, I can just go on to say that that's the ticking time bomb. You see, that's again moving on from there. It's just a summary of what's happened. I said we all know what we live on. The other bit is moving on to the pile of ticking time bombs. Again, the word pile is to say it's not one issue that is a fault line. It's not only one issue we have in that community, in that country that's a fault line. We have series of issues that are fault lines. And each one of those, if triggered, can be a catalyst for an open conflict. And I can start with what? The lack of trust, the polarization of society, which have heightened certain stereotypes, sentiments, comments, which are very divisive, and due to people reacting, emotions and everything else. People are traumatized and all those kind of things. You keep people have fear. And the history of dominance or want to dominate, all these things are facts. And all this is a taking time on. But let's talk about the youths we're talking about. Generations of youths. It's becoming another generation. One generation we already lost. We have to capture that. We have to rehabilitate that to avoid the other generation coming. We know the educational system. We know society as it used to be, or the way society should be. It's not. The mistrust, the tearing of the social fabric. Let's go. We can go on. And that's another time on. But institutions, lack of institutions. I'm not talking. We have resemblance of institutions. We know when we talked about reforms, the security sector is a taking time. Why do we think we still have economic in the country? It's not due to any passive threat coming from outside our borders. It's within the borders of the Gambia. As much as I continue saying this, economic is a temporal measure, but once we don't have the right leadership, economic is going to be a permanent measure. And a permanent measure, in fact, cannot be a solution to the problems. Economic cannot absolutely insulate the country to avoid us going into conflict. No, they will end up reacting. Now, technically, economic is kind of even useless as a mechanism. Yes, there's still a degree of value in them, but they have lost a lot of other value to the extent of people that understand security, what we call mission creep, have ensured they are, when you do a proper analysis of the situation, they are starting to be part of another catalyst, another fault line that can be a catalyst to a ticking time, and represent a ticking time bomb. Because we don't have time to go to that. Is another subject. But just a point for people to have a look, especially people that have that security mindset. It's how demoralized the armed forces is right now. How demoralized over 7,000 men and women been trained and everything and sat idle and with all the toxicity in the institution. I'm not saying the entire institution or the people are toxic, but there are presence of toxic elements present, not only as humans, but other events that have happened that needed to be dealt with. These are things that we saw. But right now, when we talk about what we're talking about right now, what is very evident, what we're going through now, something that we need to deal with now, is about the integrity of our elections. But you bear me a minute. I just want to go through a little bit of history in order to set this, discussion and give it a better perspective and put it in a better context. The failure of reforms, the democratization project, and the social justice. The failure of reforms. And short, now we are still facing this risk. And who is responsible of this failure? The responsibility is us. We have to take that responsibility. Battle of failed leadership. And if I say failed leadership, we cannot just point. I said leadership. I didn't say failed leader. Leadership. We cannot just point to Adam Abaro. He's an individual. But collectively as people, and people as we are represented. Because we all know how we got here. The failure of the institutions, society as a whole, how we got here. We all know how we went through to take on the dictatorship, the sacrifice done for how many years, life lost, sweat, tears, finance and everything else, trauma, everything else. We know about these things. We had an argument, and what that argument was in order to return our country to be a stable sovereignty, to build our foundations, and the most important foundation, it's the system that we operate on. And that system we agree was democracy, as we did during independence. We agree on that. Democracy, and in order for democracy to thrive, democracy have to be based on institutions. Democracy is a system where there are check and balances. Then democratization means we have to reform ourselves. To introduce all these things. This is what informed us to think of a new constitution that is fit for democracy. We talk of a civil service that is fit for that's independent to operate in democracy. We talk about electoral process. That's why we said we have to look at the IEC, how we conduct ourselves in order to operate and work independent and to operate impartially and to give us a free and fair elections. And you go on. But another one that people keep on forgetting is the social justice. The dignity of the people and the social capitals. And this is what we mean to reform society, where people will be trusting again, where we can have the unity of purpose, where we walk in harmony, just as it was based on our national anthem. As it was based in the national pledge, walking in harmony, for the common good. As if we start, walk apart, we shall fall. I can give it to all, but we all know what that means. Walking as with the diverse people, walk and pray. These are the values that we needed to restore. We have to learn again to do these things together. These are reforms that were needed to be done. But it fell. And another value As I say, social justice is the dignity of the people. I mean, the generation I belong to and the generation before me will tell you this. Gambians, we are no beggars. As individuals, we are no beggars. Gambians have pride. And Gambians are generous. Not even worse generous. Gambians are generous. To the extent of it, they take us to be fools around this region, especially with our cousins. I mean, people that travel or had in a relationship with our families in the sub-region. Be it Senegal, be it Guinea-Conakry, be it Guinea-Bissau, be it Mali, or anywhere, Nigeria, anywhere, we'll tell you one thing. The generosity of Gambians have no measure. And for that, Gambians are seen as fools or whatever, or naive in that sense, but that's who we are. There was a time, they say, Gambia economy. I mean, when you go to when you visit, they say Loma Indra. When you go in, they say Loma Bari. And you go, I mean, you go to other communities, that's how it is. And this were all this thing, what have we turned up to? We have been turned up to where pride, to beg. I mean, technically we turned up to country of beggars due to the 22 years of dictatorship with that, and we continue. And that's a complete fail of leadership, and these are all things that we needed to restore, we failed to restore that. But the other point is the institutions. I mean, let's just concentrate on the democratic positions now, the problems we deal with. I'll come back to the other part in society to fix that. Let me just put that first. And in order to now, let me move on into the institutions and the foundations to operate policies. In order to do this, when we have a system, democratization of stuff like this, but we know what happened. The status quo, the establishment, and this is for the youths to understand. This is our. I know our people saying our as I'm a youth. Yes, my mindset and can correspond to youth. I am of certain age, but does not mean that I cannot relate to youths. I can relate to genders. In fact, I can relate to rural or district regions. Because I am a Gambian. That's what matters. But this is about our future. Let's think about this as our future. The status quo have failed for all these years, and we have to take responsibility for that. And when we say status quo have failed, we have to take responsibility as generations, because we are part of that. A generation before us and our generation have failed. That's why we are here. And then we owe it to the coming generation to make sure they not fail. The youths, we owe it to the youths. But we keep on pointing fingers to the youths and blaming them for what they are. And I keep on saying this. In Wolof, if su nekkee dem nga kër nit, nga fekk fa kilifa bi, nga ne ko njobootam bi yarawut, njobootam bi tekkiwuñ, yow kan nga saaga? Yow kan nga saaga? Yow kan nga wax ne defut lu mu war a def borom kër bi? And ni tata moo la korlaatu. And yalla alfat terakol korlaatu. And you turn out and yafoko ala dingol man kulu, ala dingol man parka. Ite dumale ne. Ite yalla dingol le neng, or ite yalla yewo alfa le ne. This is the situation of Gambia. We cannot turn around and blame the youths. But we have to take that responsibility as a generation. 2 generations we have failed, from independence to now. Before, a generation have fought, negotiate, or do whatever it takes to give us that independence. Handed out of that independence. Whatever that independence means, is for us to make it better. We work with what we got to make it better. And that's part of my title. What we get to make it better. We have to engage to do that. We fail. And because of politics, because of self-interest. It's not politics. Politics is a noble profession. And we have to use politics in order to deliver. Because democracy is about politics. But what we fail to do or identify is the opportunity. oh, let me do this, or let me say this, let me be divisive, let me do that in disregard of the national interest or my interest. Once your interest, always remember the national interest supersede your personal interest. Your personal interests have to be aligned to the national interest. You always have to measure to say that what I want, how is it going to impact or affect society? Is it for the better, for the greater good, or is it going to, because that's your ultimate interest. Your interest is ultimately that it impacts society in a positive way. We did a short, long time, and short time, in fact, people might not love certain things that you do, but you honestly know that what you're doing is for the greater good of, for everyone. It's not just because you're selfish or not. But it's for the selfishness, that's why the status quo stayed. And we are failing, and we continue to fail, but we are at a point that we're sitting on pile of taking time bombs. And we allow this. That's why Barrow became who he is. We allowed that to happen. From how Barrow was selected. Yes, we can go. I don't have time to go into that. Just to reference to it's from the beginning of our politics coming here. But that doesn't mean that we have to hold on to just the past. No, we consider the past in order to ratify the future, but not to hold on to the past to just to have indifferences. We have to remember that we have a country to fix, and whatever it takes, we should be our humility should be there. We should be not ashamed to come out to say we committed mistake. We should not be ashamed to say that we seen these things wrong. Don't be ashamed all that. What is greater than saving lives? Because we are saving our country. We want to save generations. You think what is happening to our youths today is a result of our failures? What is greater? Why should I be ashamed? I should be proud enough if I have the courage to come and admit to committing mistakes. Because that talks about your integrity, and people respect you for that. It's not a sign of weakness. Apologizing. It's not a sign of weakness, admitting to mistakes. But it tells the person you are. But, cut it short, we all know how we fail on all those the reforms. But I give you a typical example, because why I want to do this, to show Gambians the possibilities. And something that people have never thought probably how important this was. Because when we talk about the foundations, the policy, holding IC accountable, the failure of this today, what is happening all around, is a failure of mandates. Mandate, as citizens, we have not done what is right. That's why we fail to infect the change. Failure of mandate, people who are elected have failed. Failure of mandate in parliament, the parliament have failed. Failure of mandate, people who are appointed as independent individuals, as citizens to man this IC have failed. And it's sad. We don't know how to build legacies. Alaji Alumamanja have failed, intentionally or not, because of you don't expect an 80-something-year-old man to be functional, to be firing on all cylinders, how good intended he is to deliver. Then it's dishonest unto himself to hold on to a position that he absolutely know that he doesn't have the capacity anymore to lead. If we are judging, we have to be critical about this. It might not be an intention to cheat or do something wrong, but the wrong happened when he has not accepted that he have lacked the capacity, he have overstayed. His capacity. We have to accept we can't do something. We have to accept that we are not going to do something better. We might have the intention to do better. That's why I said on personal notes. 4 years ago, in fact, I rejected a promotion at work because of it would have disarmed me completely if I had taken that promotion. And the promotion would have come with heavy load of work. It's not something I'm scared of, or I exceeded the capacity. That's why I was recommended to take it up. I did not even apply for it. I was kind of a headhunted to, no, you have to take it up. I acted on that position many times. At that time, they want me to, this thing, I acted on it. I was acting on that position. When they recruited, I was the one that trained the person to take over. And I serve behind the person now. And that promotion was going to make a £13,000 difference in my earning. No, I did not take it up. It would have meant me doing something or taking up something and leaving something else that's more dear to me. And more dear to me was to concentrate on working on to try to, be part of a process that will fix what we have in the Gambia. That's the reason why. Because I got the job up would have limited my time and everything. We people know. That's what people should do. Especially when you're given a national. This is so important. The integrity of our democracy, integrity of elections. We all seen the evidence. I couldn't have time even to tell people we all seen in Kenya, Ghana, anywhere else. It leads to open conflict and lives will be lost. It's a very important job. We fail as citizens to make sure we have the change that we fought for. We fail as a member of parliament to make sure what's supposed to be done is done. We fail as political leaders, political party leaders, political leaders to make sure what is supposed to be done is done. IEC failed in making sure they done the way they meant to do. But again, if we go, we can share the blame. And people would have different responsibilities and different magnitude of blame to take. But I want to bring it up to something that we had a conversation here. It's about policy. Because when we have these foundations and operate, it's about building an operational operation system. Just a minute, let me open the door for my daughter. When we talk about this, we talk about operating system, we talk about policy. And we've done this. We had an opportunity when Simlex came on board. I made programs. Many people made programs. And I remember the programs. I said, we have an opportunity here, should not be a lost opportunity. This is an opportunity, Gambia, to digitalize everything that we have. It's very important for national development. Let's not do this haphazardly or anything. We have an opportunity to own information. Information is key to development. Information is key to development. Our birth record, our death record, our birth, our coming to age to acquire things, for driving license, for voter cards, and let's go on. For even time, if we manage to create that wealth, this would be a way to redistribute that wealth that we can tell, because we have prospects of becoming a wealthy nation if we have the leadership to explore our mineral resources. Then it will be a message that we have a very good system that we can rely on and redistribute and know Gambians well. This was very important. I said we had an opportunity. We had an opportunity. That central system which would have helped with what? COVID. Why countries like South Korea? Why countries like Taiwan? Why the small countries manage COVID well? Because of the information they control. They can tell your passport, your driving license, your ID card, everything is controlled in a manner that security is ensured. Be a pandemic, be terrorism, be any form of security, this thing, they can easily narrow it down and put a control and devise a control mechanism in order to have it under control. These are all important things. What have we done? And another thing was, I said, if we have thinkers, we can do this. We can do it in many ways. But the central part of the core thing about is owning it for our future. Not giving a company 10 years. But no, but we all know the Simlex was about corruption. The Simlex was about kickbacks. It started very early. Now look at the problems we have. But the core thing now, another major thing that we fail on was civic education. That's why I say preventative. You think if we were very aware, Gambians would be sitting on their hands. I'm not saying some are not doing. The outrage is coming out, and in fact is based on party positions, and hence is based on party position. Now it's been politicized. I'm not blaming the people within party structures voicing out. But if we were educated, civic education intensively in 4 years, as part of our reform programs, as we say, to rebuild our social capital. Because without the social capital, without the the human capitals, we cannot develop and will never develop. Especially coming out from a dictatorship or a conflict-like situation, you need to rebuild the social capitals. You need to rebuild your human resource capitals in order to develop. Development is not about the infrastructure alone. Infrastructure is an enabling factor. They are critical. But without the social, there will be unrest. Where there's unrest, there's no time for development. The development would be to concentrate to restore order. You know how expensive it is to restore order? Life and resources, time. You have to build your human resource capital. And build, it means, in fact, because it's distorted. We have Gambians capable everywhere. But did we build a system to bring those Gambians? You see, and that can only happen where there's a program of unity of purpose, where people that who are leading have that mindset to improve, are not scared of the integration of the people coming in, are not scared of the intellectuality of the people coming in. You see, this is why they lock off the diaspora. We fail. We have an opportunity, and we fail. That's how we could have rebuilt our country. That's the education was. I mean, these are things that we forwarded, as I said, to put context to this conversation. As I said, the conversation is very important to avoid social unrest, avoid one of these fault lines, and to become a catalyst, taking time on to become a catalyst to civil unrest. Because we all know, the fact is out there, that when democracy is undermined, especially elections, what does it do? It flare-ups and flare-ups to be something that goes to civil war. And we all have seen how civil wars have happened and what it have done. Because what we have is not sustainable. You see, you come to a level, you have to complete decrease the pressure in order to survive. You see, let's say you were locked up in a compartment and you start pumping smoke. There is a moment that the person can withstand the smoke because of the person is standing at a height and the smoke is shimmering from the bottom, rising up. But will come a time that the person will start to feel unease when he gets to his knees. And that person starting to lose hope that there will be nothing to rescue him. Because if you have the ability, what you do is just walk away, or you open the vents, in order to ventilate the environment, the compartment. But because of you don't have that, they come to knee level, you start to feel unease. Your internal feelings start to change. Your adrenaline rush started to make you feel, behave unreasonable. You're feeling disoriented, confused, and started, in fact, to behave in a way that's more harmful. Because people, you expected to comport yourself, started to see what you can do to get out of the situation, but not, you are already disoriented. As it goes up, the only thing that can rescue is the pressure for it to go down. It's not sustainable to stay in that compartment because it will consume you. Because if you get there, you start coughing. This coughing bit, that's what we have seen flaring. We have seen violence from youths and other things. They start coughing. Gambia is coughing. And next minute, you are consumed and you are done. This is an analogy that we can think of, that the pressure have got to that level. We have to do something. The realities, as we said, and this is the reason why we said in the agreement, that in the MOU agreement, that the incumbent should not run for elections because it's a destabilizing factor, because he would do something unfair. He would project himself. He would project certain interests that will ensure we don't have a stable environment. Ensure we don't have a sound foundation. And the absence of sound foundation, what happens that anything you build on will just crumble. It's quite expensive to build. Want to build a very fantastic structure, and you want to put it on in an unsettled ground. It doesn't make sense. You cannot expect someone to be an authority in a match that he have stakes on. These things don't work. Now what incumbency, that's what it was. He will do something, in order to entrench himself. And those programs that he does to entrench himself, what does it do? It presents a risk, posed as a risk. This is why he ignored the Janet Commission, and keep the people around him. Those people will do what he wants. This is why he betrayed every other agreement he had with anybody else. This is why he undermined, he failed to do the social reforms, to invest into the youth, social programs. He did education, healthcare, social capitals. This is why he undermined our constitution draft. This is why he undermined our parliament by buying out parliamentarians, even though he was independent. All he had to do is to buy other corrupt people like him. This is why he failed to reform the security sector. This is why we had the economic, in the country now, technically posing as a risk. You see, you can go on, all because of he wanted to entrench himself versus change. Change, it's our mutual interest. Change is for the greater good. Change is for the sustainability of this thing. Change would have been the mechanism that would take off the pressure for Gambia to be stable again and oriented properly. But this is not sustainable. We will not develop, but will be destabilized, or because all these factors. If we fail to do the right thing now, with these elections, we are doomed. And I said this. Why? And people who have followed my programs during the impasse, I keep on reminding Gambians, I am not into this for what we just have now. This is just the beginning of the change. But we are ready to be part of to continue this change. And that change is what we know is to make sure we have a system, and that system is democracy and social justice in order to build on. We know our expectations, but we know our capacity as well. We know our resource capabilities, and we know what is possible when you have the right people in the right place. We know that we knew it wasn't going to be easy, but we knew too it was not impossible to transform, because countries have. People, some of us who are practical students of history, I'm not talking about students of history who read here or there, who live through certain realities, and we are conscious as young people to interact in that realities, can do know the difference of transformation. It's not a theory for us, it's something that we live through. I can remember in secondary school listening to Sirif Sise, the then Minister of Finance, in 1982 budget speech, 82 budget speech, I think, or 83. And this is where the transformation agenda of the PPP was being discussed. It was time of radio. It wasn't social media. Many people don't have access or the privilege even to listen. And I remember I was not home even. I went to a friend's house, and when I think it was Ramadan. I can still remember the budget speak was late in the evening because of the Ramadan. And I said to my friends, "Oh, I have to listen to this because the people, and they were not interested." And when I went to look for a radio to listen, the people around, most of elderly people, were all listening for their interest. And what their interest was, their priorities. Whether the rice will be increased, whether sugar will be increased, whether oil will be increased, where some even cigarettes. This is what they thinking of. As a young person, and the education I have, not in school, from my environment, was what policies are going to be advanced that would transform, our predicament. And I had first very eloquently put, the argument was based on how South Korea, how Japan, and Singapore was mentioned just a bit of it, but it was based on Japan transformation, South Korea transformation, and Singapore. And the rest of was about attitudinal change, about austerity, about building structures, and that's where the policy came about of this Gambia, Singapore of West Africa. People don't even know where it oriented, how these programs came about. These things are very important in order to try. We knew all these things was possible, and we said that we will fight to get this thing done. We want that country to transform. Again, another privilege we have was living in a democracy here and see how things are done. I give an example. When people talk about socialism, people talk about capitalism, but as ideologies. But one thing I realized is being pragmatic. I cannot be in any ideological dogma. I treasure both. And where it works best, when things are combined, and pick from the best of anything and put it together, not to hold to any dogma that restrict you or restrain you from moving forward. And this is where in social science, I come across the feminine and the masculine policies that for transformation. And then you look at the issues surrounding the United Kingdom compared to America. Why do you think you have so much crime in America more than the United Kingdom? And in the areas or the crimes that are similar in the United Kingdom and America, you can see the failure of the policies where people would point to capitalism. But again, you can see how the good part of capitalism, investment and other things have transformed society, have created wealth, and that wealth the citizens can take and reinvest into society. These are things that are very important. But again, this is where you look at China. If they hold back to communism, if they hold back to all those socialist principles or whatever you call it, you think China would have transformed? No. Go and look at what the Cultural Revolution did, other things did. What it did was just to have a system, strong men in position to do what they want. And they will never be equal to people. It's all lies. Then you look at Scandinavia. There is no absence of capitalism. But people can see the social policies. Yes. That's why we have to be pragmatic. We can transform our country. It don't have to be either or. We have to be people using their common sense to look at our country, our history, and what it needs. And this failure, this is what the failure is. Now the floodgates are open. Let's take an example for the attestation. Why do you think we have a floodgates of attestation? Again, we are vindicated. Why is it this happening? I said, when we came out, I don't like to date my struggle. And I think any conscious person should not date their struggle. because the struggle starts from when we were conceived. Struggle starts from when we were conceived. That's for every Gambian. Depends when you were vocal. Depends when you found your voice. Depends when you are conscious of your environment and stand up to be counted, or people to recognize your contribution. But people contribute in many ways. Some even subconsciously don't know how much they contributed or how much they contributed. Then it's very political to date someone's struggle. And I have seen people even not put justice to themselves and think that every struggle started within the 22 years of dictatorship. No, Gambia and Africa for matter, or as human beings, our struggles start from when we were conceived and go. But when I found a platform, it was based on what? It's not based on being a journalist or anything else. Yes, based on social justice activism, but it was based my experience, knowledge, experience in social justice, in surviving, in living in a democracy, living in other, living a privileged life, or coming from a humble background. All these things are experiences, but most so the expertise I have in security, and this is in intelligence here, intelligence. To use this in order to advance the struggle, the cause of the struggle. How do I play a part? I do everything consciously. I measure everything and do things consciously. At times, yeah, things can fly out as humans, but anything would done consciously. Some people might just think things flow out of my head. It does, because what I'm talking about is experience, something I lived. But I am always guided by something. And just like this, I am guided by this written here, these scripts that I at times struggle to read. But it guides where I want to go, because I have something that I want to achieve from this discussion. And then this is the same way when I came to struggle, something I want to achieve. And that achieve is to be part. It's my personal interest, but as I said, personal interest guided by the common good. Because people would ask, what does he want? What does he get from you? I don't monetize what I do. People can take any material I have. Even if one, I don't encourage them, let them destroy it. That's them. That doesn't change who I am. If someone wants to make profit out of it, go ahead. I'm not interested. My profit is to see the impact that the little I contribute is having impact on people, and it's being shared. And the satisfaction I get start from people that acknowledge, and I see the change and the frustration, and it helps to manage the frustration and all the disappointment we have. And people that know me think and believe I am very optimistic. Yeah, I do have frustrations, but I am an optimistic person. But we cannot achieve this without we walk in the environment now. And it was most important to make sure we take the dictator out by all means necessary, but with calculated risk and in the most cost-effective manner. Cost-effective. Take it, everything that you want. Life, money, anything you are cost-effective, that make sure it's done. To be part of that. But it doesn't end there. It ends from avoiding, from there on to stabilize the situation, because we know when you take off a cap from pressurized bottle, you need to be very careful how you take off the cap. But again, you need to settle it in order to make use of that cap. If not, everything pours out. To stabilize that. And once we do the stability, is to build. And this is the process we are in. And we have our disappointment, frustration. We fell out with many people, but we have to always come back again. We have a disagreement because different interests. And people say, wonder what you want from this. That's why people have doubts. He doesn't belong. No, he must be secretly belonging to a political party. Why would I secretly belong to something? I would be a slave to do that. My ideology, yes, do get into different aspects. But I look at myself, where would I effectively perform? Effectively perform outside of a political decision. I am a politician. I might be a politician, but right now I'm not a politician. Where my strength lies is here. Oh, what group does it belong on? No. I work with different groups in advancing democracy. I contribute wherever I'm invited into. I put as much as possible. But I never belong to anything that restricts me from dealing with any other thing that I need to deal with. I have that independence. Because I don't work for any entity to advance on that entity's interest. Whatever entity I am is entity that works to be part of creating that greater good. I have that independence. I go back to bed, sleep, and know that I have done my citizens' duties. Because the privilege provided by my people, by citizens in that country, make me to think like that. And that's what I want to nurture to the generations coming, so that we can pass it on. This is what's sustainable. And in that process, it become my interest and use my expertise and understand how the dictator operates. And then use my expertise to understand how do we get this out. This is what led investment, time, and everything to do a comprehensive study about elections. Why did this dictator love elections? Why dictators love elections? They only love elections because it's a way of legitimizing them, so that they can be protected, to say that if you attempt to force them out, you are doing something illegal. That's why they like them, so to call themselves that they are elected democratically. Then they have to make sure they win elections. How do they win elections? You see, this is how the minds work to get to the bottom of things. And then what can we do to deal with this? And we deal with that and put that out of the way. It's a long story, but people know what happened there. But this system is still in. It was not built in a vacuum. It was gradual. It started not from the dictator, it started from the forces group, started from politics. Then we need to get this out of the system if we want to have a democracy that has integrity. If we want to maintain, go through the process of democracy with stability. This is why I am in this, I prioritize these elections. I prioritize the legitimacy of the elections. And voter fraud, I can call, I have a specialty in it. Because I looked at it, I wrote these things, I know how these things are done. And work and tirelessly to try to avoid this. And you see, because every other thing they tried, we have punchy. People were, oh no, it's speculative, just, but the proof is here. I said, assessed it as the best. Adam Barrow cannot win an election. And I put my case. Why? People that think the incumbency, I give them a counter narrative of why this is not happening. The only way he can do that is stealing, and stealing will be technically impossible because we are going to allow it. Because there are conditions that allow the dictator to do it, those conditions are taken off. That's why we should never regret taking out the dictator. At least we have the freedoms and the temporal peace, and we should use that temporal peace. It's not stable, in order to bring about change, to solidify it and to move on. People are not feared to speak out. People are not feared to stand back. People are not feared to do something, but we have to do that within the rule of law. We have to do that with sensitivity, very sensitive. How we advocate, what we advocate, and how we advocate. We have to base it on facts. We have to base it on logic, in order to keep our credibility and not to undermine the project. Now, because they tried everything, vindicated in a sense, when I talk about the West Africa project trying to get voters from this thing, that night, people who know me know that I will not say something, or the people even that know, but because of they don't care about the country, all they want is to see what because of their pay to do some certain things, they look at the short-term gains. They supported Barrow. No, they want to deny the facts. They want to tarnish your image. And I said, we're going to see. Now the evidence is there. And everything else we said, evidence is there. Let's keep it that way. But one thing they use or trying to use is voter attestation. And I said this. When I made my program, I said this. We are lucky, again, and we should use that opportunity. Because what happened this time around is 10 years, and every 10 years, the entire eligible voters have to register. If it was only 5 years, then most people that had the old voter cards and had it illegally would not need to re-register. They just come and vote. You cannot stop them. But now they have to re-register, and because of they were registered under attestation. You see, the dictator, talk about this. Dictator wanted to control mechanism. You see, that's why I understand when I investigated the dictator ensured that the things that he can control, he makes sure those people have an ID card. They were issued ID cards. And he hold on to their voter cards. And some ID cards. Some people were left with ID cards, and those are people that are living outside the country for some technical reasons I'm not going to talk about. But most of the people given voter cards did not have some did not have their ID cards with them. He hold their ID cards to control. But all the voter cards these people have, he made sure he kept the voter cards. And the voter cards are 90,000 cards, which translate to 300,000 votes. That's another way they do it. I'm not going to talk about that. Now, why did he want the others to stay on attestation? Because he cannot control their loyalty. If he can control the loyalty of these people, that's why he kept them. The people he kept his loyalty, they are not 300,000. But what they represented would equal to the equations to make the 300,000 he wanted. That's why when he put the petition, he asked for 300,000 votes. We are lucky in this. Now, because of technically, they tried, we stopped them. They tried to do a national speedy naturalization project. I'm not going to say what we did, but we ensured that immigration would not do it. We stopped that. They tried to issue ID cards. Immigration again. The system worked. Certain mechanisms were put in place. We stopped it. They could not issue the ID cards to these people. Now they fall back to let's try attestation. Let's attest underage. Let's use attestation to attest the foreigners we bring in, attest the foreigners in the country. That's why we have the floodgates of attestation. And why do we need attestation? It's a witness. I don't believe, I don't have the statistics on me. But we all know common sense. Let's use common sense. That's why I say we have to be logical in looking at certain things if we don't have the evidence in front of us. It's a discussion. Let's look at this. Where Gambia, we have rural communities, but how rural are most of our people? Not to be registered, not to able to regularize themselves. How much would that be? And if that happens, what generation should that be? Should not affect the youths because they go to school. And most cases, the schools make sure you have your birth certificate. You enroll. And you come out of the school system or you are under these things, you need an ID card. Now, people need a form of identification because most Gambians are receiving remittance. Not from the diaspora alone, within. You'll be surprised how much of money is traveling through remittance system, transfers, bureau de change transfer system within the country, from Bakau to Basse, from Bakau to Bansang, from Bakau to Badibu, Kiang, and others. And these people would need form of ID. You see, it does not make sense to have this much. Yes, the rural communities might need attestations, but this has been used and abused, especially in the urban areas. It's very unlikely to have reason to need attestation to vote? Why can't you walk, I don't know how much it is now, about $50 or $100, I don't know, to go to the record office to find your birth certificate and get back your birth certificate and it might be issued new, but the details there could be verified. Why does this not happen? Attestation is the form they're trying to use. But what can we do about this? And attestation will be in two forms. Attesting legal Gambians, and let's say attesting underage Gambians. Underage Gambians, which is wrong, because that means that you are pressurizing the youth to participate in something protected by law. They should not. You are pressurizing them in order to control them and in order to steal the elections. One. Two, you are using attestation to attest to non-Gambians to be Gambians. Some might have lived in Gambia for a long time, but there's a law. The Constitution tells you who is a Gambian, how they become a Gambian, or how they can become a Gambian. If they had natural rights, nobody would have a problem with that. But you don't have people that you enable, and the only reason you enable them is in order to use them to cheat the elections. It's not unfair. But another form of cheating is to attest to Gambians who were not born in your constituency or who have no residence in your constituency in order to transfer the votes from one constituency to another constituency in order to win the local government elections. If Mayoress Lowe she is guilty, she will be guilty on this basis. People have a good reason to suspect that she should not. Let me put this clear. People might say, in the absence of Alcalo or chief, she's the only competent office to represent. I disagree. I disagree on basis of conflict of interest. If your position is guaranteed through an elections, then you should not, just as we disallow Barrow, we disallow Usaini Darboe, we disallow Halifa Sallah, disallow Dr. Cisse, or any other candidate, any other candidate to write an attestation, or member of parliament to write an attestation. Your position as a mayor came out from the political process, from the election process. Then you should not be a referee to that. You should not be able to write an attestation for anybody. Yes, you might write the attestation for Gambians. You might not write the attestation for non-Gambians. But cheating comes in a different way. And she might not be the only one guilty of this. The people that she is writing the attestation, I'm not working on facts here. What I'm working on is what's reported. And from her statement, she have admitted writing this attestation, and some have produced the documents that she attested. And she have claimed that she is doing it for Gambians, which I believe that she would. But the problem is, are those people residents of Banjul, or are those people born in Banjul? These two things are important. Residents of Banjul or born in Banjul. But technically too, we have to think of, do they have domicile? Domicile, and the end reason that they spend most of their time in Banjul. They have interest in Banjul. They work in Banjul. They have business in Banjul. They might not live in Banjul. You see, that's another technical term. We have to look at this. But if that is the case, even they should be attested by someone else. But I don't think those people, in fact, would need attestation, because they would have their own birth certificate. They could have walked to this thing and put down their birth certificate, put down their passport, put down their ID card. If they are people who are privileged to be born in Banjul, privileged to work in Banjul, privileged to this thing, they would be privileged to set themselves out. They'll be privileged to set themselves out. That's why I said we should take our caps, political caps off to deal with this issue. It's our national interest. Let us not look at the scope and it might benefit my party. If we do that, we lost the moral moral capacity to discourage this. We have to have a zero tolerance to anything that undermines the elections, because it's to the interest of local government elected members, be it mayor, be it chairman, be it a councillor, to make sure that people he believes to be empathetic or to be sympathetic or to be within their party, this thing, to be registered in their constituency. We have this is not new, been done legally. People I know that live in Bakau, but let's always go to Kiel, go to Basse, go to Bansang, go to Badibu to vote. Because this started from our history. Because Parliament used to elect president. Like how many parliamentarians you have determined who is going to be the president. And because of most of the candidates, almost all of the candidates who stand for local government are coming out from the virtue of the family they belong to, the cabinet, the family, the influence. Now, it's like people would try to ensure their family members in Bansang, in Basse, in Badibu, in Kiang, in certain part in Combo. I might be married in Bakau, residents in Bakau, have my kids in Bakau, but I might be from Sukuta. But it's my cousin who is in Sukuta. I want my cousin to win a parliamentary. I will not register in Bakau. I might be PPP, I might be NCP. I will not register in Bakau. I go to Sukuta register. People used to travel during that time, and still happens. But we have to face the facts and see what this danger is unavoidable. The position of the mayor, for me, is untenable. There's a conflict of interest. And we cannot take the position that because there's not, I don't think there's a need for attestation, in fact, and how many people would be need for attestation does not mean that she done wrong in the sense that they are Gambians. No, we are not talking about whether they're Gambians or not, but it's unfair, and that should be done. What we can do in the short term is important. In the medium term is important, and in the long term. The short to medium term is from registration to elections. To make sure we register, our people register, to make sure the integrity of the registration, that ensure the integrity of our elections, to make sure the turnout of the elections, all these things are available for people to understand. There's an argument, and we have to be very careful. Let us be truthful, or if we don't know, let us ask. There's an incident that people are showing voter cards, and some of the voter cards they're showing are not voter cards, they are samples. If you want to know, you look at the register, the serial number. The samples, the voter card samples they're showing, the serial numbers are wrong, deliberately put wrong. Instead of the serial number, I've got one here, I came across. Just a minute, I'll take this card. Okay, I've got one here. Oh, good. The serial number for this card is a sample, but people are putting it out to say that IEC is deliberately putting wrong serial numbers. No, these were the samples that IEC done to test the system. And in order to use it to educate the people, but some people got hold of it and now are spreading it around. Because this serial number have 105. 105 should be the machine. Every machine have a unique identification number. In case of there's a dispute, in case of there's a irregularity, they can go back to trace that card where it belongs, where it was registered. Every machine is dedicated to certain area to be used. then they will know that this machine was only used in Bakau, Bandon, and Serkunda. It was not used in Badibu. Now, if they find a card in Badibu with this registered card number, with 105, they don't know. Then this one, it was made up. Because the machine are already programmed to do this, to give that identification number. The 21st, the number 21 should be should be the year. It should be the year. Then you have the month and the day. But this one is put in a random wrong way. That's why it's not. There's incidents of again some of these names not being spelled a certain way. But we should all remember there is no name in the Gambia, or many names, are spelled in a different variation. Some people spell Suleiman, S-U-L-A-Y-M-A-N, S-U-L-E-Y-M-A-N, S-O-U-L-A-Y-M-A-N, different ways. What matters is the name on the voter card would match the name on the register. Nobody can stop you. What they look at the voter card, when you present your voter card, they look at the picture, it's you, Suleiman. They look at the name Suleiman, is Suleiman, the same Suleiman is on the register. They look at the serial number, is correct, is right. You vote, and we should not be scaremongering and accusations. Let's verify about this information before we run with it. If not, it will undermine our credibility. And it undermines the credibility, not us as a person, but undermine the credibility of the campaign of stopping illegal voting. There are set rules to follow, and those rules should be observed. Every registration station can have, the political parties have a right, not a privilege. If IC said it's a privilege, it's a lie. It's a right to be there to conduct, to ensure the registration goes right, to ensure that the register, which is very important, the entries are right, it's gone through the right system, and the last entry is noted. If the last entry is 64, Suleiman Suare, tomorrow, when we come, the last entry should be still 64 Suleiman Suare. We cannot have 65, 65, 66, 67 different names. Then that register should be contested, and that station should not continue until that is verified. Because I'll tell you, if you leave it to pass that, you will not have an argument, or if you want to do it, it's too late. We have to prevent it. We have to prevent that. Again, we have to try to stop people acquiring this attestation. That's why it's important to be vocal about this. But let us be sensitive. I know some of these things come from history, the way we use our language and so on. Some of these things come from emotions, and the emotions right. You see, just as when people go with vigilante justice, it's because of when they think that nobody cares about what is happening to them. Now they would think that the only way they can deal with these things is to take the law into their own hands. That's why it's important the stakeholders to step up. Be it civil society, be it political party, the inter-party, be it the IEC, have to communicate clearly to reassure people and continue to give progress report. We should not wait things to continue and confusion. Let's be proactive and make sure reports are coming out to tell people what is happening, what should not happen, and so on. And it's not only the responsibility of IEC, they have a mandate, true, and we should hold them to that. But it's the responsibility of every citizen who has the capacity to do that. It's the responsibility of the civil society organization. It's the responsibility of political parties. But how many political parties do we have registered? How many did we hear from? These are our worries. What is doing in the absence, a vacuum is created. Now people are speculating, people are getting angry, people are getting emotional, and nationalist feelings are coming out. Then the language coming out cannot be pleasant. Should not be. But these are the realities. That's why we should appeal to the people advocating to be sensitive in the language we use. not to be, continue to foster the exploration of society, be it based on tribe, be it based on nationality, but let it not create an environment of xenophobia or anything. That's why we owe it to. That's why this government owe it to the people not to continue this blatant corruption, blatant rampant scamming to stay in power. But I will tell you, they have no choice. As I said before, they cannot win an election. They don't have a structure. They don't have a belief. They don't have nothing. What they have is money, and that money has turned toxic. Now everybody is just coming, doing anything, saying anything, so that they would insult, they would cross carpet, to come back, they would make statements, they would talk about nonsense. To say that they like to borrow on anything just for the money. These are things that we should be careful of. Attestation should not be acquired. And again, vindicated. When I said Barrow was consulting governors, we all have the information coming right, and we have seen the proof, not only information, seen the proof. The local government minister, when I said the meeting, when conducted, it was Barrow, the local government minister, and 2 other people. I am not going into details for obvious reasons. Let them think what they think. But and we have seen they're talking to governors, trying to use governors to alcalos and everything to do this. It's up to us to stop that. We should not take the law into our own hands, but we can speak out, we can talk to our neighbors, we can talk to people that we know, our families who are not citizens, to tell them, don't get into this. Let's keep our relationship, let's keep the stability of this country, enjoy the goodwill of the Gambian people. We enjoy your service, we enjoy your contribution to our society. You make a difference, you make in our country a better place. Let's keep it that way. Don't allow selfish politicians to get you to be part of what plunged this country and the harmony. The reason that you left your country to come here, the harmony, the peace and tranquility, that you enjoy today, that you contribute to be this thing, don't be part of it. We have to talk to people. The advocacy should not be about anger, should not be about any foul language or anything, but can be done on different levels, different ways. We all have this thing to that. We are all neighbors. We are all living together. We depend on each other, and this should happen. The attestation should not happen, and we should stop that. But again, when attestations are presented, we have to keep records. This is where the party representation come in. Keep records. Take the details. Take the details. Know who is registering, what they're registering. If you have any doubts, that's the law. That's why you represent your party on the table. Write it. Use the law. And we contest it. When we contest it, even the Jawada days, contested, it is somewhere contested. Let me, for people that don't know, Sam Silla was standing for the PPP. The PPP did not want Sam Silla to win. The PPP helped use their own mechanism to help NCP in Bakau for Sam Silla to lose the elections. Sam Silla took a petition and lost that petition. And the evidence were there. I don't have time to tell you how they did that, but these are the same system being used. They use the same people today we accuse to go across and vote for Dembo and NCP. Dembo was going to lose that election because Sam Silla was a better candidate. But Dembo won that elections due to what happened. And one of the systems, that's why I said the measures that are to be taken up to elections, we know it. One of the measures was to disrupt the strongholds that voting for Sam Silla was going to happen, and stop that amount of sizable number, and those people took their voter cards and attest to Sam Silla, we did not vote, and we are going to vote for you, and handed all those voter cards, and the amount of voter cards went to almost 3,000. Or something like that, a big amount. Let me give a figure. Big amount, we could have made a difference in the elections. Because the Bakau School polling station was disrupted, the Newtown polling station was disrupted, and these were the areas Sam Silla was going to capture more of the votes. But they enabled the other areas that the NCP have stronger ties. You see, this was the way they undermined it. But let's the parties be proactive. This is about a national duty. This is not to advance your party, in fact, it's for the peace and tranquility of the country, for the integrity of a democracy. And it's not sustainable, as I said. We have to do something to ensure we do things right. And there are many forms that are out there, and we can discuss that. I mean, time is just very now. And as I said, we have to advocate and be measured on for the national interest. National interest. Let's just not look out the other way because our party is benefiting or gaining. Nobody will benefit. This is about Barrow and his gang, or any political party that takes in this allow this that party or that person does not see the interests of the country, because this undermine the integrity of our democracy, undermine the integrity of our elections, and it will destabilize the country. It brings because as I said at the beginning, we have taken time outs. And I have mentioned that people have just joined us late and listen from the beginning. But I want to close this conversation based on the sub-regional context. This is what some would call the heavy politics. I know this heavy politics. It's polluted with conspiracy, or people that might overblow or misrepresent or fail to put things together. You see, Africa, or the third world, from slavery to colonization to what we have now, there's a concerted effort, and there will always be concerted effort to keep Africa poor. And the only way you keep Africa poor is to give Africa poor leaders. That's why people keep on blaming the people for poor leadership. No. If you diagnose our problem properly, it's the blaming the people because of the poor conditions we live in. Yes, there's an aspect of that. But strategy to talk about this is about poor leadership. Because of the superpowers, and China is no different, India is no different, Turkey is no different, and the European Union is no different, America is no different. They have their interests. Margaret Thatcher had said democracy is not the best, but it's the best so far because of it managed to put control over things. But they don't have a permanent enemy. What they have, they're consistent on their interests. And until we Africans understand that we need to look into ourselves to protect our interests, and that interest can be the mutual interest, and the mutual interest is the national interest. How do they achieve their gain? It's by organizing themselves. How do they achieve their gains? Is by corrupting us to bring leaders who are unjust, leaders who are lazy, leaders who are corrupt. Enable them, support them to be in power, and maintain them and sustain them in power. And this goes for all the countries. But to bring it to recent, this is history. For instance, all the international communities you hear, and most of the NGOs, you'll be surprised how many of these NGOs behind the scenes are controlled by national intelligence agencies. You'll be surprised. Because I have the privilege to work for national, for contract intelligence agencies. I know who their clients are. I know who their clients are. And I know the damage they do and how they inform these people and control. All this from the United Nations and everything else. The only time we will do is to try to look into ourselves to determine our future. I'll give you an example here. What is happening right now in our West Africa, the entire West Africa, Africa for that matter, but especially West Africa, and this is all countries trying to do something about it. They do it differently. China do it differently, Britain do it differently, America do it differently, but in a very similar manner. France are concentrating in our region more because of the colonial history, because of now they're trying to catch up, so lost grounds that they lose to Turkey, China, India, and other things. Now they try to recoup that, and that recoup that they come in with a younger person, Macron, to do that. That's why you go and look at how many times Macron have visited Africa and West Africa, and what countries he's visited, and what that could come out from the countries. I don't want to keep it long, but we could have gone deeper into that. Let me bring it back to Gambia. The leadership in Senegal has been undermined, have been controlled before, but it's worse now by French influence. And we have seen how Macky Sall is and how France is trying to, in fact, entering Macky Sall to destroy this democracy in Senegal, that mature democracy. But Senegalese will not leave that. They'll fight. That's the solution. They'll fight. They'll try to bring about change. They'll keep on doing the change until they have what they want. The influence now, they're using Senegal, they're using Macky Sall to influence, to get control of Gambia, which is a British colony, control of Guinea-Bissau, which is Portuguese colony, to get access. They already control. These are the two countries, but to get access to Sierra Leone, to get access to Liberia. I cannot go deep into that. We have the facts. We have evidence about these relationships. That's why Mother Bill, when he was elected, first country to visit Senegal. George Weah, Senegal. What do you think they have in common? Go and look at the history. You'll go and you will see why. I mean, there are other evidences. But let's keep it narrow again to Gambia. Now, we have seen what happens in Mali. France is continuing to their control, to have influence, but the Russians who are in it. But who is losing out? I see some Africans championing if France leaves, Russia will come in. You think Russia is coming for the interest of Mali? You think Russia is doing anything in Africa for the interest of Africans? No. They'll be worse than the French. Only us Africans can look after our interests. Nobody would do it for us. Until we find the leaders to do that, then we ask people, we should make sure we elect the leaders that will stand up for our interests. Make those difficult decisions. Now, because we see the double standards, what France is doing, because of now they want to determine this way, it's not. I'm not supporting the junta. The junta should not be there. They should ensure civil society and politicians determine. Soldiers should have a role to play, but not to govern. They are an institution, they have a role to play, they have limitations. They should allow the people to be free to determine their future. They should be there to safeguard the security and national integrity of that country. Now, what is happening here? We see the facilitation. And this led me to the trip of Adama Barrow to Guinea-Conakry. I'm vindicated. Again, you see the way, the manner the trip was organized. I talked about when the external affairs minister went to these countries, and I am saying it again. Barrow would either come from Guinea and go to Senegal, or come from Guinea and go to Guinea-Bissau, or Senegal, or something. Now I said that they might find another way, because whenever you say it, they find another way. But you know, some of these things, they cannot do it on telephones. They cannot do it anywhere else. They have to meet to do it. And there are other things they do together. Fraternity they do together, they have to be in presence of each other to do it. That's why they are forced to go. That's why they don't have representatives to do it to them. They have representatives going to do the other things. But this thing they have to do. We have to be very careful. People supporting Barrow externally, Guinea-Conakry or everything, they are not doing for Guinea-Conakry. They're not, Macky Sall is not doing it for Senegal. Yes, people might see the national interest of Senegal, but actually it's more to do with the French interest. Our problems as Gambians is the same problem Senegal has, Guinea-Bissau have, Guinea-Conakry have. That's why when we have to deal with our problems, let us be careful not to be xenophobic. Let us be careful not to have problems with ourselves. What we have problem is our leaders. We should take it up to our leaders to make sure we bring about the change. But we should be very careful not to get involved among each other to have a conflict among citizens of different nations. That's why we should talk to us, engage to make sure this interference did not happen from these countries. It's not to our interest. That's why political parties too should be proactive in speaking out to get to every level to reassure the people and to talk to the thing. What's stopping political party from addressing these problems with the people coming to vote? Tell them. But no, nobody addresses it. They will wait things to fall apart and they come to try to fix this. The trip to Guinea-Conakry and others is also entering down. One, I don't have time to go into this, is to try to fool them. They're still trying. And it's not going to happen. If it happens, that's the point to the country straight. If it happens, I give my prediction, it will point the country straight. The ticking time bombs will explode. One, but that's what they're trying to do. But the idea would not fall for them because he understands the geopolitics and he understands the situation. He might be wicked, but he's not completely stupid. The other thing is to consolidate, trying to get this support, morals and other support they have, in order to rig the elections, or if an impasse happens. They plan ahead how to support each other because they are all sitting on the same thing. Guinea-Conakry, that's how they won the elections. Senegal is too fraught and he's trying to force, but now Senegal is up fighting back. Guinea-Bissau is too fraught and other things. Now they want to use the same system. That's why he's learning from him. We should not allow that. These are the issues and other issues I don't want to get into, but these are the reasons. It's not the national interest of Gambia. Yes, they will take a cover. I'm going to visit the OMVD project. Nonsense. What do I understand about the OMVD project? You have technicians who go and do the investigations and come and report to you. It's all a decoy. I'm going to check this project. Project is a lie. He's not interested in that. Why didn't you do it before? Why didn't you? No. It's all about elections, and these elections, that's why it's important. On a final note, just to give you an example of the desperation. Again, when we said we are vindicated, when we talk about they trying to mobilize people from different corners in West Africa, we seen it. Because we preempt it. You see, prevention is better than cure. We try to prevent it, because we don't want any sanctions. That's why I came and talk about it. The way we're going to do it, I talk about it, to disrupt it. Now they try to adopt another way. The convince us they came with all lies. Or Gambians who don't have farming in Senegal. We always lie. Where in the Gambia you don't have land to farm? To give on a personal note, I have 4 properties in the Gambia, and none of those properties are developed to be used for anything. One of the properties is developed, secured and everything. And with facilities, I gave it to someone and supported that person to farm in that property to take care of it. The other 3 properties, I put a house in all these other 3 properties, and families are living in those properties. I provide water for not only the property, but for that community that they take from the property, and they farm on the land. You rarely have that in other countries. And I'll tell you how many Gambians are doing that. I know of a brother who just went back in April, who gave a much of a land, his farm, because he could only use part of it for years. Now he have built up his capital. Now he's got tractors, implements. Now he's going to use the entire land. Now he went to negotiate with the people that he borrowed that land. Now if for 4 people work for him. And this is within the compass. This is within the compass. Go to Fonyi, go to anywhere, Kiang, go to anywhere. There's enough land. It's never a fact. But they try to use that. Now they come up because they want to mobilize women. They said women who are married. How many Gambian women are married in Senegal? And for those women, you think they don't have family ties, networks? If they want to visit Gambia to register, they have to ring around to look for someone to come and mobilize them. Why would a party, why NPP can mobilize them? What do they have to be grateful for to elect NPP government? What have the NPP government done for Gambia, for their people? That's a lie. Now, because of we point out that lie, what did they do? They took a group of young men. Whether they live in Wellingara or not. Us Gambians that know Gambia. I used to leave Bakau, go to Njaube. People that know Njaube. I'm not sure whether it's Rezo Wellingara. I have to go to Wellingara, change from Wellingara, take my distance to Njaube to do business. I can tell you, Wellingara, Njaube, and all this. People that have ties, yes, they have ties, but you will be surprised that most of these people from Wellingara, if I come and live in the Gambia for facilities, not the other way around. I'm not saying there are not some Gambians, some. And these Gambians, some who are in Njaube or in Rezo Wellingara, are industrious people. Because Senegal is competitive. Senegal is a very, very, very competitive society. You have to have maximum talent. You see, look at the good, skilled people that comes to the Gambia, tailors, welders, and you think these are the best of best? Yeah, they might be very good. But the reason they come to Gambia, because the environment is not competitive as it is in Senegal. They come to Gambia. That's the logic, that's the facts. No, they went and took Gambia. These people, I suspect they'll be Gambians. I have no reason to, because that's what you do, to make people to believe, you see, this is the proof. Now, for people to relax, so that they can bring their foreigners. No. The people they brought might be Gambians. But tell me something. Which sane Gambian, a sane Gambian I mean, a honest Gambian, Gambian with integrity, Gambian with skills, Gambian that is productive, not depending on handouts, would say, and it's a lie, that they walk from Wellingara to Basse to Bogay, this thing in how many days? Why didn't they tell us when they were doing that march? Why didn't to document it? That's a lie. Based on those, logically, it's a lie. Until they produce the evidence, it's a lie. And because there's no sane Gambian who do that. There's no productive Gambian who live for what have Barrow done for you? What have that country, what's in the country for you to do that for Barrow or anybody else? Anybody else. And what does that signify? Because it does not make sense. That's why a productive person, you will not do that. If you support Barrow, you take your fares and go and register and go and do your thing. Or give money to other people. But you say you walk in to prove. You walk in to prove. You walk in to prove that distance. Something is wrong with you. Because you are paid, you are controlled, you are lying, you part of that campaign to lie. That's why I say the people around Barrow are not sophisticated, they're not honest people. But it's up to us Gambians, coming back to it. And if you sum up everything I said here, what I'm saying that this is a national interest. We should walk to the national interest. This is not a partisan. Any view you take, any decisions you take, especially to do with anything in life, should be to the benefit of greater good. The decisions might not be popular at times, might not be an easy decision to take, but should be an easy decision, knowing that would be the lasting good impact that would have on you, your integrity, your generations, anything that you measure it would be best. That's why we should take this time to ensure we keep and reset the buttons and make sure we have change and change in the right way. Gambians will decide, Gambians will be informed, and Gambians will take the decision to elect the person. And whoever been elected, or party got elected, or parties that got elected, we continue our democracy and give them support them where we need hold them accountable in other forms. And opposition will thrive and go on, and we continue working on it. That's why democracy gives up. Just what we have now is unsustainable, and we should not allow this. If Barrow had confidence, this amount of fraud would not happen. Would not have happened, and I said it. And now he is setting the country. He is setting the country to be destabilized, and we should not allow that. It's not to our interest. And the only way we can do that to prevent it is to be proactive as Gambians, to get off our wherever we are and make sure we do the little we can. We can talk to our neighbors. We can, people that have capacity, people who have the platform, people. There's something you can do. And another thing is, as a Gambian, encourage your family, encourage your friends to go and register vote. Let it take. People have fought, people have died, and everything else to give us this freedom. Then let's make of the use of that. If we all register, I don't have time again, but this is another way we understand. You see, another way it was possible for Jammeh to do this. Because, you know, the votes have to tally to the national census. Jammeh had to play with the national census, control it, in order to serve his purpose. But again, because of the distortion in society, the amount of people that left, nobody account for them. The amount of people that die, nobody account for them. The amount of Gambians that refuse to vote because they don't believe that vote is going to make a difference, don't register. Then it gave Jammeh the opportunity to register other people to take your place. Now it's easy to think away things for the voter population census and the registration to tally. Now, if all Gambians who are eligible and within the have the means to register, what will happen is, if you want to bring people who are not eligible, this thing will happen. The vote will not tally, and then they will have a problem, and they will not do it. That's why we have to go there and vote. And we have to be very careful. Let me put this here. We should encourage, if we want the integrity of these elections, the IC is projected about 800 to 1 million votes. The way it's going, the disruption because of the machines not working, disruption because of the amount of contest for attestation, disruptions going because of the indiscipline of some of the IC workers, taking longer break, lunch, and all those problems. And the failure of IEC to put in a structure, to put timely and everything to make sure it's possible. If we allow time finishes and we don't even register 500,000 voters, our democracy have a problem. Even half of the voters are not registered, we have a problem. Because there's already 10% of that vote in the diaspora are not registered. That is a discussion for another day. Thank you guys and have a good afternoon. Thank you, Jason Jeff.